But I don't see it that way.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
All right, so there's a lot of elements that go from, that I see in a lot of your movies. Animation, punk rock,
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman. How many movies have you done with Brian Case?
2, and they both had fisting in it. But sound of one hand fisting.
But this is your 4th movie, 4th feature with Frank DeMarco.
Yes, Frank DeMarco, the DP, cinematographer, who was introduced to me by Michelle Satter of the Sundance Lab. She said, "I think you'd like this guy," and we ended up using him for Hedwig instead of going with a bigger name. And that's a little piece of advice: is always work with someone who's not quite there yet, because they'll give you even more, if they're talented. Don't you think?
That was, yeah, and that was some of Frank's most beautiful work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we wanted to shoot on film, and for people who might know film or digital formats today, that's the Alexa, but it's very sharp, and a lot of superhero movies, everything feels a little too high res for me and doesn't really feel real. So his idea was, like, if the full resolution of the frame, the digital frame is that big, we would actually frame a kind of a donut hole of the frame and use that for the film, so it kind of softened everything slightly. And then we added live grain, which is a proprietary grain by Monsanto. Actually, Martin Scorsese owns this grain, that grain. And we put the grain over it, and it has a film-like thing, but it doesn't call attention to it.
No, it doesn't. But so this is what, the last time I saw Frank, he had all these lenses and all these cameras, and he's a gear junkie.
Yeah.
And he's just got a basket full of cameras. And so does he present all the looks that he's thinking of to you?
We just look at other films, so we look at certain films from the 70s or Liquid Sky, or what else do we look at? We're thinking of our favorite midnight movies from the 70s, but also for production design, for camera movement, for, like this, for animation. I wanted that outer space thing to look a little bit 80s and, Liquid Sky-ish, so it's slightly more cartoonish, but still 3D digital, which they didn't do then. But a little bit painterly. What was funny?
No aliens were harmed.
That's true. But what organization certifies that? NASA? Yeah, so, design, costumes are also important.
Yes. I don't know why. You just like the costumes. I was just very interested in the development of your relationship with Frank, because this was actually together. I think this was your best collaboration with Frank.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
It's also,
It's gorgeous.
We love each other. He lives right nearby. He's just such a generous person too, and we have a shorthand now. We know how to work, and that's an advantage. That's why you see a lot of directors working with the same DP and editor, because those are, and producer, of course. Those are the most important. Those 4 relationships to hold on to people over time is really important.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, are you guys working on the sequel to Hedwig? Right?
We're not. We thought about it, but it's not. It didn't feel right. Yes. I'm going to walk away. When I return, we will speak of the costume. Yes, I asked our friend. I said, so Sandy Powell, Dame Sandy Powell, parent-teacher Sandy Powell, who outranked all of us on set because she was the original punk, working with Derek Jarman, and then she Todd Haynes, and then Scorsese, and giant, 3 Oscars, and I'm like, will you do my film for £1.50? She's like, all right. And she said she had so much fun on this, more fun than she's had since Caravaggio with German, actually. And I said, I want the aliens to look like aliens. They've taken the bodies of aliens, in a way. I want them to take the bodies of aliens from the 70s. She's like, latex. I'm like, I love it. But we can only have one. It was a low budget. And where's Howie Gertler, our producer right over here, who started the project, got the rights, made it happen, also produced other films that begin with how to, such as How to Survive a Plague, and How I Met Your Mother. No, you didn't. Short Bus also. So Sandy and the designer, Helen Scott, I said, I want to play with the tropes of this kind of movie, of a high school movie, of a sci-fi movie, of a 70s punk movie, so we want to have fun with it. All the aliens are the only color in this town. The town is quite gray, the punks are black and white, the only color is the aliens, and each of their colors are based on a chakra, because they're based on the chakras. And there's a missing chakra, which is the heart chakra, created by the cosmic musical copulation of that song, Eat Me Alive, is where she gets pregnant. Just like the nuns told us, you dance a little too close, and you get pregnant. So it starts off being how to talk to girls, but then it's like, what do you do with the kids? Is really the real title of this film. Is parenthood, really. And so that's a long answer to Sandy Powell really letting her go. But Howie and I realized that she did outrank all of us when I said, well, do you have the costume for the punk, Eat Me Alive, because they're in outer space, we're shooting the outer space on green screen, and she's like, I don't have them, budget's too low, won't be ready. I was like, but it's on the schedule for Friday. She's like, don't have them. Don't have enough time, money, people to make it. And that's never happened to me before. And I said, parent, teacher, Sandy, what should we do? She's like, body suits. She's like, love it. She could project onto the body suits. So it turned out to be, as we learned in Hedwig, limitations in budget often require creative solutions.
Too many options require no creative solutions.
Right. You do the
house.
you build it on, you throw money at it, and you get crap. You get. I was about to say something political, but that's not good. So is that an answer to your question?
The costumes were great,
Right?
yeah. I thought so.
They kept ripping open music. The acrobats are a real acrobatic troupe called Barely Methodical, and they're brilliant. Their shows are just really moving and funny, and their asses kept ripping out. There were people, there was no second one, so the people sewing up asses all day. Right, Howie?
No, you and then that person.
As a writer, what inspires both of you guys? Because you both have really unique material to write about, and really unique context and content. And what do you do when you hit a block?
What do I do when I hit a block? I go for a walk. I do something else. I was telling John earlier that there's songs in my new show that started after playing ball.
This ain't no disco at the Atlantic Theater this summer.
Thank you. I'm playing ball with my dog and then resting and sitting there and just thinking about this song for the last hour, and all of a sudden, oh my God, I have the idea, and I start recording it into the phone. But you do something else. If you just sit there and stare at the page or whatever, that's not going to happen. Sometimes you do scales on the piano until you start writing a song. Because scales are boring, but they at least keep you at the piano.
When I get blocked, I have to push through. I actually do the opposite. I have to stay on it, or otherwise I don't know. I won't do it. I have to like have a deadline and have a schedule every day and talk to people if it's something that I'm beyond, you know, show something to people is really helpful. A handy thing to happen, and I'm sure, you know, Stephen does it too, is that just on your phone or notes or audio, just save thoughts that you never know where they're gonna go. You know, someone walks by, something happens. Today there was a lovely kind of, looked like they just got out of jail couple. A white woman in her 40s, a black man about 50, kind of lolling in the grass, and they were sweet, and then they got up and started boxing. She had a cast, which she used to block his punches. And it was very loving. You know, they were hugging, but they didn't really know what was going on. They seemed kind of, they were drinking 40s too. In my park. And I was videotaping them. I felt kind of bad, but it was so interesting because it was very loving kind of, she's like, you know, but they're kind of hitting each other. And then he's backing up into me. I'm taping it, and like he's getting really big in the frame, and she goes, "Watch out for that lady!" And I went, "Oh!" So you write those down, or you videotape them, and you always have something. I have like millions of things over the years that I just go over sometimes and go, "Oh yeah, that thing." That could be a metaphor for a relationship. What if someone in a relationship that's going badly sees that happening in front of them in a park? There's a scene.
Yeah.
We have buttons outside on the right as you go for our old punk alien buttons.
You.
As a director of this film, what is one of your favorite themes, and what did you take away from this film that you'll carry with you forever?
I've spent the very little money that I made, so you know, I had a wonderful experience. Buttons. I had a wonderful experience on this. It was kind of perfect. My mom is British. I got to go back to Britain and make a film. You know, in a way, my sense of humor kind of. Sorry, just thousands of others here. I learned my sense of humor from Britain, and you know, I grew up there in the early '70s. I missed the punk time, but you know, both Stephen and I in the '90s were part of a queer punk movement. You know, that came out of ACT UP, really. You know, came out of AIDS and came out of Fury and Queer Nation and ACT UP. We suddenly realized that being queer was in and of itself punk. You know, and at this club called Squeezebox, there were these queens who had been doing lip syncing dance songs and realized they could sing punk, you know, because they were already punk, you know, by living, trans and drag people living as the way, you know, kind of a low class of entertainment, and that they were already Johnny Rotten, but funnier, you know, so often. They were just we learned so much from them. So with this film, it was really fun to kind of go back and do our punk fairy tale, you know, coming out of Neil Gaiman's short story, which is just the party, really. And then with Philippa Goslett and Howie kind of starting this world, Neil Gaiman saying, I really think it's, you know, boy meets girl, girl goes off with boy, and she has to leave. That's all, and we should keep it on Earth. And they got started, and I added my own stuff, the cosmology, and it was a perfect experience over a long period of time. And then Nicole was like, I've never played a part like this before, let's do it. Let's do it. And I met Ruth Wilson in a physical therapy session, Matt Lucas in a hotel. A number of the aliens I met on Grindr because I needed what? I needed a certain look which was not available. Try to find an Asian person in Sheffield. Any more questions?
I like that one because one of the things in that last scene where the two fellas give the unexpected advice, and you realize that you're thinking, what's this? That both those guys were changed, and that it's not really about, is it a positive change or a negative change, that life is about change. And that made me think of the evolve or die, and it's just, they were changed by what had happened, and that in and of itself meant something to them.
And making something changes you. I mean, a lot of people make things they don't care about for money or fame or this or that, or they convince themselves it's more interesting than it is. Usually the things that are more interesting are harder to make, take more time, and there's less remuneration. And not always, but that's often the case. And my favorite scene in this is still, that I still get something out of, is the evolve, when she says evolve or die. Nicole is saying, darling, I'm dead from the waist below. Move on. Evolve or die. While at the same time, the punk is deciding to kiss the twins. And he's evolving in his own way. And even they're evolving, because they're just used to fisting. Trying to feel stuff by fisting people. And he's like, how about you kiss me? So everyone's evolving in that scene, which is fun. And it's a fairy tale that about evolution and about different ways of evolving. I mean, the virus metaphor too. Punk is a virus, but a healthy virus. I remember reading an article in New Yorker that every virus that had ever affected any human being was in each of our DNAs, which I thought was fascinating. And Darwin would say, it started early with a kind of half-living thing called a virus, that made us human. And he says, who knows what we'll become in the future. So that's underpinning. Yeah, one more.
One more? Is there another question? Sorry.
What kind of guidance did you give the bands and musicians?
Well, we had a lot of people, and it was fun to, ironically, the Hollywood version, or, a larger budget film in this setting would just throw money at, and get every Sex Pistols song and Buzzcock song that they could handle. But ironically, the anti-establishment anthems of God Save the Queen, out of our budget. Too many corporations and estates. Yeah. Even the Slits we couldn't afford. We couldn't figure it out. But the DIY thing is make your own thing, right? So 80% of the music was original, and I wrote 3 songs and sang on one, and got, Carl Newman from New Pornographers did the song and the records thing, and Ezra Furman is in Nicole's scene, and so we just gathered our friends. Motmos do all the alien music, which is, one of our jokes is that without the aliens, the punks wouldn't have become post-punk. Which is why they look like they're Gary Newman. And the krautrock sort of Joy Division thing is very much them. So the only real guy from the era, we got the Lou Reed song because friends with Hal Wilner and the lovely Laurie Anderson, who's working in my new musical. But the only real person from the day was this guy named Bruno Wizard, who was the MC in the punk club, and he was in a band called the Homosexuals that I was always interested in as a homosexual, but never heard them until about 10 years ago, and they were really hard to find. None of them were gay. So punk.
Go figure.
Go figure. But they chose the name because they didn't want to be tempted with selling out, because no radio station would play a song by the Homosexuals, which is what the Slits did too. So I met him, the punk singer, Martin Tomlinson, who co-wrote all those Discord songs and some of the ballads, the song at the very end, with the kids, with Brian Weller, who was my assistant and then fell into the job of composing brilliantly, and now I'm working with on my new musical, which is in a podcast form, was referred to me by Danny Fields, our friend who managed the Ramones and gave us those pictures to use, which again we couldn't have afforded, and Sheila Rock gave us pictures, and he said, you gotta You got to see the singer in this band called Selfish Cunt. Like Selfish Cunt. That rings a bell. Right? It's like we all know one, but this band is very kind of anti-capitalist band in London in the 2000s. And he knew Bruno Wizard, who is a homosexual. So he was like our one connection. We didn't want to do the usual thing of like, you know, how do we get Johnny Rotten in this? Or, you know, it was just trying to wrangle some of those guys that we worshipped was not worth the time or budget that we had, right, Howard? What was the question? Oh, yeah.
What advice did you give them? So did you
Oh, right.
say
I just
the
said,
truth?
you know, listen to the stuff that you like, but don't get caught up. Like we're not caught up in the actual verisimilitude of the 70s.
Right.
It's a fairy tale, you know, like Hedwig, like Shortbus. We're set in a certain place, but we're not a documentary, you know. So we want this in the music too, you know. Even at the end, we do kind of 80s, 90s dream pop song there. I do with Jamie Stewart from Shoo Shoo, who also did the Eat Me Alive that we wrote together. And it's like, you know, it's like, it's inspired by that time, but it doesn't have to, you know, they would never have that amp, right? You know,
Sure. It's not a documentary.
No.
You want it to be fresh.
yeah, you want it to be, you know, a little punk for now. We can always use a little bit of punk, I mean, especially right now. You know, Emma Gonzalez is my idea of a good punk.
Yeah.
New punk. Yeah.
So we're wrapping it up. So
We gotta wrap it up.
tell your friends to come see this movie because it's really beautiful and wonderful.
And go see his musical, This Ain't No Disco.
And congratulations.
Grab a button or two. Thank you.